Good morning and welcome to another Insurance Times webinar. This is the Navigating Excellence, diving deep into the results of the Broker Service Survey 2024. So I'm joined by an expert panel to examine the results of the survey that examines exactly what constitutes excellent insurer service to brokers. Just before I introduce the panel, a couple of logistical points. So we are live. Please do shout questions out throughout our Q&A system, and we will be able to answer those. We will leave time for questions at the end, but we will also try and weave some of those in as we go. So, can I introduce some of the panel? So, sitting next to me, we have
Tom Florence, Managing Director of Pollenza Insurance Services. We're a fully independent commercial insurance broker with a specialism in care and charity risks. And we're currently going on through some ambitious growth plans.
Excellent.
I'm Sarvan Shah. I'm a head of research for Insurance Times, and I look after many of the research projects from e-trading to broker service survey to the MGA survey that we conduct at Insurance Times.
Lovely.
Hi, I'm John Batty. I'm Technical Director of Top 50 Independent General Insurance Broker, British Insurance, and I'm a Board Director of the British Insurance Brokers Association.
Lovely.
And I'm Jo Sykes. I am the Divisional Director of Broker Channel at Markel.
Perfect. Thank you very much. As you can well see, that's an excellent panel to dive into the results of the Broker Service Survey. And congratulations, of course, to Markel, who came top in that survey. So well done very much, Jo.
Thank you.
Savan, obviously, you're very well placed to give us a bit of a rundown of what the Broker Service Survey was examining and what some of the key findings were. So maybe we should just start with that before we dive into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, certainly. So Insurance Times has been conducting the commercial lines broker service survey for the past 18 years, and we always invite brokers, commercial lines brokers, to come forward and rate their experience with their insurer partners over the last 12 months. And specifically the areas that we always ask brokers to come forward to rate are 5 key areas in the insurance journey, from underwriting experience, claims experience, quality of cover, relationship management, and policy documentation. And this year we had 13 commercial lines insurers meet the threshold to be included in the final results. Markel did superbly well, being ranked number 1 amongst their commercial lines insurers in the market. And of course, in order to be rated 5 stars overall, an insurer must perform exceedingly well across the 5 areas that I've just mentioned. So fantastic result for Markel, and have done really superbly well in all the 5 different service areas that we investigated.
Excellent. Great. I mean, that's some top praise there, Jo. I mean, maybe you could just speak to what Markel has been doing to achieve those 5 stars, and what you think might be the most important aspect of those areas investigated that Savan just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think firstly, really strong broker relationships. That's the cornerstone of our success, really. I think brokers value speaking to an underwriter, an expert, a decision maker at the end of the phone, and we're really keen to kind of keep doing that. I think that definitely contributed to the service score. I think we have an open kind of communication channel, so brokers can engage with us on the telephone or electronically. So it's a broker's choice in terms of how they communicate with us. I think that led to the 5-star service.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got some brokers sitting alongside us, and both of them, I think, work with you, and they'll be able to provide their own perspectives on that. But you would say that broker service, the relationship aspect of that, is the thing that you find most important to? Yeah,
I think so. Insurance is a people business, a relationship business. There's a lot of talk at the moment about technology. For Markel, it is underwriter first, enabled by technology. So we are utilising technology in a way that supports the underwriter decision, but we still have that face-to-face or telephone conversation with the broker.
Excellent, great. Savan, could you maybe just zoom out a little bit about the importance of broker relationships, and I think we've got a slide if we could bring that up as well for the viewers at home.
Yeah, of course. So one of the areas that we look at in the survey is all about relationship management. And, when looking at those insurers that did really well in this area, relationship management was key. So it's definitely being able to talk to an insurer in the manner that you want to, whether it's by telephone, by email, really understanding the kind of communication preference of the broker. We have so many brokers take part in our survey, and we see year on year whether it's we just want our insurance partners to pick up the phone, or to respond far more quicker, or to, really kind of come and visit us in our offices, and having that key relationship face to face, and understanding, what the broker needs and their kind of, what they need for the kind of year ahead and the different risks that are at play is crucial. So seeing all the different kind of feedback from brokers, those insurers that did really well in this area really had a handle on understanding what the brokers really want when it comes to having that communication and regular communication. Not just, you'd be surprised by the feedback that was given when you could see that some, insurers that done really well really wanted to understand what's the best way of communicating. But there was some comments from brokers about other insurers that didn't do so well. So it could be not seeing their BDM for the last 5 years even, and sometimes these things are happening, and I think the more regular the visits are and communication, the better.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no relationship without communication. I mean, but from your perspective, John, as a broker, you're from the other side of the conversation that we've been talking about so far. I mean, what would you say are the important aspects of that relationship management?
It's critical. I mean, it starts with a BDM, but clearly you have to have, and we encourage it with all our broking teams, the lads and ladies that trade day to day. We encourage them to have a relationship with all the underwriters directly. We encourage them to ring them. We encourage them to go into their office. We have a city centre office in Manchester and in London on the basis that they can actually go out and meet the underwriters face to face and have a conversation. So that relationship element is critical. What we find is it's very easy for an underwriter to say no when it's just emailed over to them, whereby if you go and have a conversation, talk it through, get them to understand all the nuances of the risk, then they're actually more open to a yes. And to understand exactly what the broker is looking for, and to say, yeah, we can deal with that. We can deal with it in this way. But then beyond that, I think it's very important for the likes of myself to have that relationship throughout the organisation of the insurer themselves. And you've got escalation points throughout the organisation and touch points that actually, that create a stickiness with the insurer in terms of your relationship. I think it's vital.
Absolutely vital. I mean, I think when we talk about relationship management, I think one of the things that looms large in the memory is the service deterioration that we all experienced during COVID. And I mean, what would your perspective on how insurer service since then has...
Insurer service during COVID and post-COVID had clearly deteriorated. I'm fortunate enough to chair an advisory board for BIBA, and the regional chairs that were coming to our advisory board meetings were all saying in every single area of the country that the one thing that they were all looking for was an improvement in insurer service. So the surveys that the Insurance Times perform and those at BIBA and the Grace Church survey, they are vital to improve insurer service, but in a positive way. Because I don't believe insurers set out to offer poor service. They don't say at the start of the day, we're going to offer a poor service and it's really no good. But actually, if you can offer constructive advice in a manner that allows them to develop their service and improve it, then that's good for everybody. And I know certainly through the Insurance Times surveys, I think there's been an overall improvement in the last 12 months compared to the previous 12 months. And I know BIBA have seen that as well in terms of the feedback that we've had at an advisory board level. So it's definitely improving.
Absolutely. I mean, would you like to come in on that, Tom? I mean, how have you experienced insurer service in the last couple of years, and what do you think the vital aspects of it are?
First of all, what an answer, John. So just talking with regards, just taking a step back for a moment, when we were talking about the insurer 5-star rating for Markel, just like to say that for me, one of the sort of key elements and driving factors of their success is around their claims experience.
Right.
So, for me, they do have it really, really, well set up, from the broking perspective, but also our client perspective, who at the end of the day, that's what it's for. And, they need the best outcomes possible for their businesses. And I sort of feel that they've got that off to a really sort of good place in terms of where they're at. They're an ethical insurer. So, for me personally, with a care and charity specialism, during COVID, when, a lot of insurers decided to leave the market and make things very difficult for a lot of clients that were left out in the lurch, Markel did stick around. They helped our clients through really difficult times, constantly updating, providing news reports, and we were able to use all of this to send out to our clients and support them in their time of need.
Absolutely. I think that's claims experience is obviously one of the areas we investigated, and one of the reasons that it is an area that we investigated is that and the other aspects of that formed the survey are all kind of interlinked. And I think we can talk a bit deeper about the broker expectations, about what insurer relationships are about, and obviously claims experience is one of those. But what are some of the other expectations that you have? I know you touched on consistency of service as well there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the other aspects that you would highlight as important to that relationship management?
Yeah, so in terms of relationship management, being a relatively new insurance broker, I've had, as you can imagine, hundreds of conversations with various insurers over the last sort of 12, 18 months where, we might be planning to get agencies and, so on and so forth. And I think that, from the starting point, when we've got when we're starting our relationships off with insurers, it's really, really important that all factors, all people are involved. So your BDMs, your underwriting teams, your claims management teams, marketing, everything like that is so crucial, and we have to have a joined up approach, because if we don't have that, then in my experience so far, it's not successful. You won't deliver any sort of growth or strategic plans that you're trying to put in place.
Absolutely. I think those are vital points. And I mean, as kind of the top insurer in our survey, I mean, how has Markel integrated all of that feedback into how it's operating in its relationship management with brokers, Joe?
Yeah, we listen to brokers and we listen to feedback. We do an internal pulse check every quarter that looks at what we call NPS. We've got a plus 44 NPS, which is market leading. The general industry is -2. So we take broker feedback and, how the market is operating really seriously. And then we will incorporate that into our kind of communication, relationship. And to Tom's point, we won't go and see a broker every month if they don't want to see us and it's not relevant. So we work very much in partnership, kind of understanding the needs of the business of the broker and then kind of marry that up with the relationship piece.
Excellent. I mean, and just to go back to what John said about the service during COVID as well. I mean, how has Markel developed since then, and what changes have you made in the relationship you have with brokers?
So I think not much has changed in terms of relationship, but we were definitely it's a longevity perspective, so we haven't been in and out of markets. We're a specialist, not a generalist.
Right.
So that enables us to have deep kind of customer and sector expertise. So in the care sector, for example, in COVID, that's a really good example of us helping businesses get back on their feet. And there was a really human element to it as well, because there was a lot of distress in that sector. And we have consultants and specialists who went in and helped families and the businesses get back on their feet.
Absolutely. And I think one of the points that was also made was about that you just made about not seeing brokers unless they want it as well. And with the development of technology and increasing digitalization of the industry as well, how do you ensure that, the brokers are served in the way they want to be? You mentioned already that, we'll speak to brokers on the phone if they want, but what about, e-trading?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're looking at technology solutions, whether that's AI or large language models, and we're looking at it from a back office perspective. So what we want to do is ensure that the underwriting information is rich, and actually brokers can benefit from this as well in terms of understanding the actual customer. So what we're doing is we're using technology to tool the underwriter with data, so their decisions are data-led. And then from a communication perspective, we don't have live chat at the moment. It's something that we would consider, but we very much go on the broker preference in terms of how they want to communicate. And from what we've seen to date, even in our e-trade environment, brokers will refer on the telephone. So yeah, we have a mixed model and very much are led by the broker demand.
Okay. I mean, let's go to one of our brokers about what that broker demand is. I mean, how do you see the development of digitalisation in the industry, and then how does that impact on the relationship you have with insurers?
It's an interesting conversation, Yanis. I think Mark Heller got the balance right. They've struck the balance right, and certainly post-COVID, I'm fortunate enough to be key partners of a number of insurers, and they were celebrating their increased use of e-trade to the point where they were talking about 70-80% increased use of e-trade models post-COVID, which in some ways you could say is a success. But actually, on the other hand, you could say, is that because the brokers can't get hold of you and they're having to go down that route? And is it a sad indictment of our industry that they can't get hold of you and they're having to use that e-trade route? And then the worry that I have is that actually, what sort of risks are they putting through that e-trade route? Are they forcing things through by just sort of changing the odd answer to make it fit? And that's always my concern around the use of e-trade, and it can go too far. I think it's great for some of the smaller end products, but there's far too many technical risks that are now going through an e-trade model. I saw a chemical manufacturer on an e-trade risk very recently that should not have been.
Yeah, it can be a bit too complex to deal with via live chat, I think. So, Savannah, I mean, would you like to come in on what some of the survey data showed on the points that we've been discussing, the importance of e-trade and balance, as John just mentioned?
Yeah, of course. So with the e-trading, we've done a lot of research in that area as well. On the 14th of May, we'll be revealing our annual results to the 2024 e-trading survey. And I think what comes out of the survey, as it has done for the past number of years, is striking that balance between the two, because on many occasions, with more and more kind of complex risks being traded via trading methods, there is bound to be difficulties. It's not quite there yet. So striking that balance between being able to pick up the phone and talk to someone and really have that understanding, because one of the comments that we have in the survey every year without fail is something that goes along the lines of, the computer says no.
Yeah.
And many brokers are feeling, maybe this changes depending on the size of the broker, but especially to smaller brokers, they're feeling they're being pushed to that e-trading route, because maybe some insurers just don't have the time to give them that dedication to that one-on-one kind of experience. And yeah, I think it's very one thing that always comes out of whether it's the broker service survey or the e-trading survey is where you have to find that balance in terms of not spreading yourself too thin, because I think that's where the problems occur. When an insurer spreads themselves too thin and they're not able to back it up with the resources, whether it's in the underwriting or the relationship management or the different areas of whether it's the e-trading journey, that's where the problems can occur. So yeah, lots of things still to work with. We've been looking at investigating a lot of kind of issues around trading more complex products, and more insight is soon to be revealed very soon by us. So, yes.
Look out for that, everybody. I mean, did you want to add anything in on that, John?
Just to echo a lot of thoughts really that have already been mentioned, but to say that, from my perspective, I'm quite lucky that at this current point in time, I don't do a hell of a lot of e-tradable products. Most of my stuff that I deal with is very much underwriter driven. So I think I'm quite lucky, because now I've started to, we recently took on a commercial account executive at the start of the year, and he has been using some of the e-tradable products and various platforms that you have to go to. And it's amazed me how much you can see, and with what John was saying earlier, you can see people shoehorning things in all the time that is absolutely not correct for their business. And then, of course, the worry is when it does come to a claim at some point in the future, it's going to definitely have some problems and issues along the way.
Yeah.
So, quite often from our point of view, we're referring and then picking up the phone and talking to underwriters because we're just not happy with what it says. In essence, the description's not right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's vital. And I mean, you mentioned claims experience as well. There, that's obviously another vital aspect of that broker relationship management and broker service generally from insurers. I mean, Savan, what do we have? What came up in the survey in terms of claims experience? What was the vital aspects of importance there? And I know we have slide 3 that I think is showing exactly what the broker said in that survey. But if you could just run us through some of those exact points.
Yeah, of course. So, we've looked at claims experience, which Markel have done really well in for the last 6 years in a row, being rated by brokers nationwide at 5-star rating in that area. And looking at a lot of the feedback, not just about Markel but other insurers as well, it's that kind of reassurance, that step-by-step reassurance. If you think about it, the claims stage of insurance policies is so critical, and it's like you need to be there, kind of have that collaborative approach to be notified step by step, to really talk about the action points, what's been happening, maybe kind of reduce the number of kind of questions, have less bureaucracy, and find those solutions that are really going to help the customer. So yeah, in the broker service survey, we have a range of feedback from brokers, both good and bad in this area. And I think what really comes out with those insurers like Markel that have done really well in this area is having that kind of step by step reassurance. Say, this is what the action we're taking, this is the timeline, and this is what the end result will be. And yeah, I think it's really about working together. And at the end of the day, you want to be reassured that everything is being done. There's many different occasions in life when things are happening, and when it comes to claims, that's a time when you really want to be there for the customer. So so many different areas and feedback from brokers that we really appreciate.
Excellent. I mean, John, did you want to pull out anything specific in terms of what's vital when you think about claims experience? What makes the excellent?
Claims is huge for me at the minute. I mean, from a reputational perspective, during COVID, as an industry in the BI test cases, were not great from a PR perspective for us as an industry. And I think right now there's an opportunity for insurers to actually demonstrate and do good from a customer perspective and do what's right for a customer. I think far too often underwriting at claim stage is a negative aspect of what we do. Far too often when we're placing risks at underwriting stage, at new business stage, we have a responsibility to try and declare as many things as we possibly can, but there's an awful lot of public information that's out there as well in terms of financial records. And I get very frustrated at a claim stage where an insurer starts to investigate 20 years ago about some sort of obscure directorship that somebody had in a company that might have gone bust that they used to get out of paying a claim. It really frustrates me and annoys me. I think we need, as an industry, we need to change that and say, is there anything in the last 5 years, for example, that from a financial perspective you need to disclose? Because anything really 20 years ago, let's be honest, is irrelevant. And to use it is unfair, especially when it's in the public domain as well. So this is an opportunity right now where, far too often I see, a large loss and instant response is a reservation of rights, and it's just not right. I think as an industry we can change all of that, and I think we should for better. And I would, encourage all insurers, cross-party discussions between the ABI and BIBA, the FCA. If everybody could come together and come up with some methodology that we should be using for claims, I think we would all benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see you're nodding along there, Tom. I mean, would you echo those points, and would you add anything else about the importance of claims experience there?
Absolutely. Look, from a broking and a client perspective, we just want claims to be looked after in a fair and consistent manner. That's as simple as that, really. That's the easiest way to put it. But I think that, from going back to sort of Mark L's side of things and just thinking of, real life examples that I've had over the last, 10 years of working with Mark L, from a liability perspective, one of the things that they do, which is absolutely market leading within the care sector, if there is a claim that's been presented and obviously, unfortunately, there's no choice but to either, try and defend or pay the claim, depending on what's the best outcome for the client. What I really like that they do is they take the feedback and the claims experience. They're obviously looking at trends and all the rest of it. And if something's not right with a particular client in terms of, actually they could have done some things better, they get Mark L care practitioners involved, which is an absolute gold dust for clients, because at the end of the day, they're not claims specialists. These people, they are there trying to run their business and look after their care provisions as best they possibly can. So to be able to call upon industry experts is a huge help, and it's definitely gives them that positive feedback. And I will say this now, that retention wise, it goes a long way for people. It's not just about pricing, knowing that you've got the right quality of cover, the right product, but then can get that additional support, whether that be Mark L care practitioners or Mark L Law Hub. All of it's really, really good.
Absolutely. I mean, Joe, would you like to come in on that? I mean, what is it that Mark L is doing differently here in terms of claims experience for their brokers?
Yeah, sure. So it links to us being a specialist, not a generalist insurer. To John's point, at underwriting stage, because of the customer and sector expertise, we really understand the risk, both on PI and on care as well. So the underwriters will ensure that they have a really accurate understanding of that customer. So then when it comes to a claim, actually, I'm not saying it would never happen, but, we're comfortable that we've kind of done all of that due diligence kind of upfront. We also have experts dealing with the claims. So it's not a generalist claims handler. These will be, sector specialists as well dealing with the claims. So I think that all helps towards the service.
Absolutely does. There's a reason why they get 5 stars off all our brokers for that claim service. No question.
Agreed.
Could you maybe, for the benefit of the viewers at home, give some examples of what that expertise and how exactly it would look in a claims process? Like, how would that mean that the broker is serviced properly in terms of communication, claims experience, etc.?
Yeah, so we've talked about MCP.
Yeah.
They're a critical part of our kind of business model, customer proposition. We pride ourselves on having experts at every stage of the process, whether it's underwriting and then through to claims. From a claims perspective, Tom referenced, we've got an in-house law organisation. What that enables us to do is be really agile. So the claims team will kind of talk to the law firm, and then you get the best outcome for the customer. So it's a quicker process, always focused on the customer, and we aim to pay claims with minimal fuss.
Absolutely. I think what's important and nice to hear from an insurer is the recognition of the importance of that value chain all the way down to the end consumer as well. I think because obviously brokers, you're facing up with the consumers every day, but having the recognition from that insurer that they are ultimately the one that enables that claim is really important.
Absolutely. And, from a customer perspective, we will, we encourage the underwriters and the broader team to go meet the customer. I think it's important that, we're kind of not just hidden in the shadows, not all customers, but where it's absolutely relevant.
Absolutely.
We're here to pay claims at the end of the day, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what our industry is. It's what insurance is for. So I think if you do your due diligence at the outset and you're comfortable with the customer at underwriting stage, then you should be comfortable at claim stage as well.
Absolutely. It's the moment of truth for
the
customers.
We're just selling a piece of paper at the end of the day.
It is their chance to showcase what they're here for, isn't it?
And if you do well and you do it good and you handle that claim in an appropriate and professional manner, then that will aid retention for both insurer and broker as well.
Absolutely. All working, singing from the same hymn sheet.
Absolutely.
I think let's move on slightly to some forward-looking stuff that came out of the survey, Savan. I mean, one of the most interesting things that we examine is what the future challenges will be for brokers in terms of insurer service going forward into 2024, but also further on. I think lots of interesting things came out of that. But before we get some of what the survey said, it might be interesting to kind of survey some of the brokers that we have right here. So, Tom, did you want to kick us off with that? I mean, what
Yeah,
are some of the
absolutely.
challenges you see going forward in terms of how insurers are going to be able to service brokers?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of challenges, it's not something where I'm sort of up all night or anything like that just at this stage right now. However, I think that, there's some interesting things going on within the market. Insurers are clearly vying for business a lot more now. There's a lot more phone calls that are taking place, and whether it be underwriters, business development managers are ringing in, asking, what risk have we got available that they could start to take a look at. So it's clearly things are shifting in the right direction. And if you look at, for example, professional indemnity risks, we're definitely seeing changes there in terms of the market is slowly starting to sort of soften. But I think actually it's an opportunity as well. So there's potentially more business out there for everybody, which is, a positive thing there. But also I just wanted to touch on, I guess, really another challenge in I suppose what I'm experiencing right now is recruitment. Yeah. That's quite a challenging time right now. So I guess for multiple reasons really, but some of them will be that generally with all the mergers and acquisitions that are going on in the market, some top talent are being swallowed up, and they can be potentially quite difficult to, if you want to put it this way, prize away. Also, I think that with regards to younger generations coming into the insurance sector, there are some challenges right now. It's not to say that there aren't people coming through, but I think there should be more. I know Bieber do a lot of work with young brokers, which is absolutely incredible. I wish I'd got involved in that many years ago now. Sadly a bit old for it, but yeah, there's lots of things that I feel like in a recruitment perspective that we need to do to support people to keep progressing the industry really. And I know that the use of sort of AI and other technology probably worries people, and you think, well, is there going to be, is there a future? But there absolutely is. What we've kept saying throughout this talk is that it is a people-led business. So that's not going to change, in my view anyway.
Absolutely. I think the war for talent is not made any easier by the introduction of AI. And I think what we need to be cognizant of is that, people coming into the industry will need to be aware of how those systems function as well. And
Yes.
that makes everything a bit more difficult. I mean, John, would you kind of echo those points? And did you have any other challenges that you'd want to highlight?
Yeah, that'd be great. Recruitment is a challenge. It's a challenge throughout the country. We've seen it from all our regional chairs. They've all said exactly the same, that every organisation is finding it difficult. Certainly from our perspective, we've seen wage inflation running at quite a horrible rate, I have to say. It's far outstripping any increase in commissions that we're earning right now. I can assure you of that. What I would say is that actually I'm hearing from some of my peers that actually from a young broker perspective that they're fearful about allowing their young brokers out into the big wide world in terms of networking, not sending them to Young Broker Day at the Bieber conference. And I would absolutely encourage every broker in the country to send their young brokers to Young Broker Day, encourage them to network, help them develop their skills. Because if you don't, there'll be another broker down the road that will. And if I was a young broker, I'd like to go to that broker down the road that's going to help me network and manage my own brand going forward. I think it's very short-sighted to not promote them externally and internally. I think the other thing is probably regulation. Regulation's really taking quite its toll on particularly small brokers. I've seen a cottage industry on fair value, and the number of insurer questionnaires that we're getting through in terms of product value needs to be streamlined somehow. And and I know Bieber has recommended a template that to the ABI that all insurers could use, and then we as brokers know what questions are coming. We can prepare for them. We can have the same answers. We could give the same answers to every single insurer, because right now every single questionnaire is different. We're spending hours on these product value templates that we're getting through. What would be helpful as well is for insurers to put their key metrics on their websites, so we can use those in our returns as well. I think that would be probably my main two.
Absolutely, yeah. I think regulation is it's impressive we've got this far without it being mentioned already. But it's a vital challenge.
Consumer duty has been massive. We've had to embed that in our business. It would be really helpful if actually, a more sensible approach for me for consumer duty would be to just have it for eligible complainants, because we're applying the consumer duty to some large corporate businesses that actually have their own lawyers, and there's really no need for them to have consumer duty protection. So I think, a conversation needs to be had around that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, would you like to jump in there, Joe? I mean, there's some challenges mentioned there. What does Mark L see as some of the challenges going forward in terms of broker service?
Yeah, so on recruitment, it's a market-wide industry challenge. I do think there's more work to do to attract people to the industry. It sounds sad, but it's a fantastic industry with so many varied roles that are available to people. But it's about that education piece, helping people understand that actually it can be, a really long and kind of successful career if you choose that path. So I definitely think there's a piece on kind of education of the industry itself, because I do think there's a certain view of the industry. And actually, we all have a duty to try and change that. John's talked about regulation. Yeah, I think from both an insurer and a broker perspective, there's huge responsibility and, time spent on consumer duty. So that's definitely something that's not going to go away. And then we've talked about automation and e-trade. That's here to stay as well. So I think it's being open-minded. At the end of the day, we all want to spend time with our customers. That's the important thing. It's the customer here that is the important. So I think a lot of the business models have to look at ways of making ourselves more efficient so we can actually free up time and spend time with customers.
Absolutely. I mean, how does Mark L look at actually making sure that those problems and those challenges are dealt with? I mean, they're not challenges that can necessarily be solved, but how do you help to communicate with your brokers and ensure that, you're working with them to tackle those challenges?
Yeah, so aside from the relationship piece that we've talked quite extensively about, so we can do that in person, we produce publications, we've got lots of specialists. So again, back to that specialist point, we will provide copy and publicise things on areas of interest. We're not property led. So we go into those, deep areas of specialism, and we will communicate and we listen to brokers in terms of what those pain points are, what they're worried about, some of the things that are impacting them in their business. And then we will try and support on those areas.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's encouraging for the both of you to be told that you're being listened to by an insurer as well. I mean,
at least Mark L.
Well, Savannah, we've got slide 4 that showed some of the responses that the survey gave you in terms of what the challenges are going forward. I mean, could you talk through obviously, I'm sure some of the things that the gentleman sitting next to you have brought up came up, but what other things came up via the survey? Yeah,
of course. So many brokers who took part in this year's survey, one of the things that was in many of their kind of feedback that they gave was about customer retention. And a lot of brokers are definitely feeling the pressure with the premium rates rising, not being able to especially with SME businesses that are trying to find ways to save money. So when rates are rising, it's harder and harder to convince them to be insured in all these areas, which is resulting in underinsurance. And that's definitely a theme that came out in this year's survey by the vast majority of brokers who kind of stated their concern for the future. Another area I would say that really stood out was, I know we've definitely touched upon this, but definitely about the kind of relationship management, and in specifically in the kind of underwriting knowledge and product knowledge as well, because what the feedback has said is that many times then trying to build a relationship, whether it's underwriters or BDMs. But of course, that kind of turnover is quite high as well. So, maybe, for a number of years they've been working with someone, but then that person may have left for whatever reason. So it's like one of the concerns that really came out was that training, that kind of development, and having that kind of collaborative approach, that long-term collaborative approach, so that the the broker and the insurer can kind of work together to really understand the needs of the business. Yeah, lots of kind of concerns for the future, but those two areas are definitely stood out a great deal in this year's survey. And I think we've definitely touched upon this, but communication was definitely there, a big concern. And as what I found when looking at the kind of different types of brokers, that because of course we'll ask the broker what their GWP is, and what I found was the smaller the kind of broker, they feel that they're not getting that attention as much as maybe some of the larger brokers. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the talk, insurance is a people business, and I think that's something that really came out in this year's survey, where brokers of course are very kind of worried about customer retention, but then they also want to have that understanding to be able to work with their insurer partners to see what the kind of appetite is. One of the things that really stood out as well was brokers will say we understand that the appetite is there for certain risks. However, if the insurer is kind of upfront about it from the kind of beginning and kind of works with them, then it kind of serves them well in the long term as well. So yeah, lots of as we kind of showed on the slide, lots of kind of concerns for the year ahead, and I look forward to seeing how insurers kind of respond from a lot of the feedback that has given. And just from my perspective, really thankful that brokers always are very very truthful. One thing we really appreciate about all the brokers nationwide taking part in the broker service survey is how truthful they are with how they're feeling and what they want changed in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, the importance of communication is it's got to be truthful. You've got to give feedback, otherwise there's no improvement there. And I mean, in that vein, we've got one of the first questions actually come in from the audience, and I think it's kind of aimed at the brokers, but then maybe you can jump in at the end, Joe. But so paraphrasing slightly, but the question is asking, what is it that this panel has been quite not anti-trade, but quite suspicious of its uses and anti being forced into that funnel. What are some examples of good e-trading that either one of you could give, and how it's been used effectively by an insurer to provide your business with advantages? Would you like to kick off on that one, Tom?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, from my point of view, as I said to you before, e-tradable products isn't something that we personally have done lots and lots of at this point in time. But there is, without a doubt, a use there for them. And I think that for the sort of SME products, then without a doubt that's really important to continue to improve that particular area. But yeah, from my perspective, Yanis, it's not stuff that I do lots of. So John might be better placed, possibly, for that.
Please, John, do you have any perspectives?
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying all e-trade is bad. It does have its places, no question. I've got facilities and schemes in retail, for example, where it works superbly well. In financial lines and directors and officers insurance, it works particularly well. I've seen some great cyber products where it's worked really, really well. Where I have concerns is that larger commercial combined type risk, which insurers are trying more and more to place in an online e-trade environment, and I'm not sure it's the right place for it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that based on the discussion during the panel today, I mean, I think that's your perspective. But would you echo those comments, Joe?
I think e-trade plays a really critical part of the future, of our industry, really. And it's definitely, I think there's an education piece as well. I think some of the products that are traded electronically, the products have to be fit for purpose for the customer. So I think there's work for us to do as an industry to make sure that those products are fit for purpose. And then people have the confidence and are trained to actually place those risks where it's relevant. So it's definitely got a place to play in the future.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Sav, obviously, you put together the e-trading report that Insurance Times puts out as well. I mean, Could you speak very quickly about the advantages and the place that e-trading has to play in the industry going forward?
Yeah, of course. With each of the e-trading surveys that I've experienced, it's kind of gone from strength to strength. So of course, there's many areas to improve year on year, but there is so many kind of benefits as well. We tend to always look at whether it's kind of referral rates for the more kind of simple, more traditional products, which are very smoothly transacted, and that's fantastic. And it's definitely reaching a whole new market in terms of growth. Finding new business, which is exactly what the kind of market needs, what many kind of brokers need at the moment. But it's just in terms of course, with technology and the integration of AI, working kind of hand in hand, a collaborative approach must be taken. I've seen in our upcoming e-trading survey that's soon to be released that when you are not working with brokers to find the best way of using the system, that's where the problems can be. That can be so. And of course, with more and more kind of complex products being available, having that right balance is not going to straight away be perfect, but of course, having the kind of flexibility. And if we look at several different industries, having that ability to serve the customer through a variety of methods, whether it's through electronically or it's having that ability to engage with them face to face or via virtual methods, will bridge the gap slowly. I think e-trading is a fantastic thing for the industry. Of course, work is still to be done, but there's been some fantastic reviews in our e-trading in 2024 e-trading survey. But of course, lots of things to work on for the future. But the future's bright.
Absolutely, I think it's just about balance, and I think that's what you've all emphasised.
Exactly,
there.
Absolutely, it's about balance, and there are some great products out there that have been developed through e-trade. Parametric solutions that are starting to come through and into the market are unique and are all e-traded, but offer a different perspective. So some of that is great.
Absolutely, we've got another
technology can also play a role in claims.
Yeah,
there's no question that access to live claims for a broker is a good thing. Looking at videography and things like that is actually successful, and technology can help throughout that process.
Absolutely, as you say, making sure that you can choose how you go with claims service. We've had another question come in from the audience about how insurer service can be used to differentiate and be competitive in a market. So maybe we'll come to the brokers first, and then you can weigh in, Joe. But you mentioned professional indemnity, which is a traditionally quite highly competitive space, especially for brokers to be working in. Is the level of service that you guys receive as a broker, how does that impact on the choices you take about where to place risks?
I think there's so many different insurers that are out there, composite insurers and MGAs and, all the different sort of avenues in which you can go down to, to place business. I think it goes back to that whole thing that we've been talking again about relationship management, and also dealing with people that actually want to work with you, value what you do, value what our clients do, and are willing to support and help them as best as possible. And so, for me, it goes back to that whole thing of the relationships, really, to obviously help support and get the best outcomes for everybody.
Absolutely. Would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think also you mentioned PI, which is quite ironic because in many ways PI can be quite Victorian. There's so many insurers still asking for a paper proposal form. And it's like, really, this day and age? But actually, where I think Mark L strike the right balance is the ability to be able to complete an electronic proposal form that actually then, if you want to, is then referred into an underwriter and can be looked at by a human being. Actually, that makes our role much easier than actually asking a client just to fill a form in. So I think as an industry, we could probably move forward with the right balance.
Absolutely. Joe, is that a conscious decision that Mark L takes to be competitive on service and kind of win business that way?
Yeah, because of the nature of our business being specialist, not generalist, it enables us to do that. So we are deep specialists in PI, so that those underwriters will only underwrite PI. So they build the relationships with the broker. But to John's point, we have, e-trade capability as well. So it's kind of, there is a self-service element for the broker, depending on size of client. And then you can speak to us if you need to.
Absolutely. Excellent. I think that's exactly what the brokers have mentioned as being important for them as well. So that's why Markel's 5 stars, perhaps. There we go. So we've got another question that's come in from the audience, and we probably have time for one more after this as well. But this one is about the negative impacts of not delivering on service, and I'm sure you brokers on the sofa can explain what that will actually look like. But the question is, what is the impact or knock-on effect to a broker if an insurer doesn't deliver on their service promises? Would you like to start with that one?
Sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Even just prior to Easter, I spent 2 weeks trying to ensure that a consumer, and it was a high net worth consumer, had cover on the new £9 million house that they were building. Right. Because it was coming to an end, their contract works policy was coming to an end, and we literally couldn't get hold of an underwriter to make a decision to give us an extension through till another 20 weeks until it was completed. So even on the Thursday before Easter, an hour before we were finishing, that £9 million house wasn't covered.
Yeah, that's concerning for the customer again.
Exactly. It's not a great consumer outcome either, is it?
Absolutely.
I mean, by 5:05 it was, but it was a real panic.
So you stayed awake through the night to sort that.
Try and deliver our best outcomes for everybody.
What about you, Tom? I mean, have you got an example there?
I think that just in general, the communication is key. We're all very, very busy people. Insurers, brokers, clients. Everybody is busy, aren't we, in this world? And it's so important to make sure that we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. If you can't do something, as brokers, we prefer to hear that straight away, because then you can move on with whatever it is that you want to do and what the placement strategy may be, and so on and so forth. When you do get that sort of negative insurer response, or where things haven't quite panned out and worked as you would want them to, it makes you more reluctant to use them, I guess, doesn't it? It's quite simple, really. If you feel like you're just wasting your time, you have to go to the people that are going to help and support and trust you, because otherwise you can't keep up with your day-to-day workloads, really.
Absolutely. So that's something we investigate as well, obviously, is the positives and the negatives of the market when we are putting together these surveys. And you mentioned the honesty that you get from brokers. I mean, what are some of the stories that you can pull out from the report about that negative knock-on impact of service not being delivered as it was said it was going to be delivered? Yeah,
so it's it ranges on, of course, the broker in question, the different types of products that they're trying to acquire as well. The kind of negative impacts of that can really be seen in the kind of communication that's occurring. One thing that we look at in the e-trading survey is, how long are you willing to wait before a kind of referral is actioned? And we're seeing with many insurers are kind of reducing that kind of gap to really action those areas, but there are a number of areas that need improvement, and definitely referral rates, waiting in the kind of dark, not knowing what's going to kind of what's happening with the referral, and of course customer retention as well is a key area. So when brokers and are feeling that they do not have that kind of consistent kind of communication, they really find it difficult to establish that kind of ongoing relationship with that insurer. But then it does give new insurers, other insurers, opportunity to come in there and to say, actually, look, this is a way that we'll do things with you. We have a far more kind of collaborative approach. We want to find solutions rather than say no to things. So it, of course, there's going to be kind of negatives, but then it also opens up opportunities as well. So which I think is great for the market.
Definitely.
Absolutely. There seems to be a theme of balance emerging here on the panel. We've got time for one more question, and we've got one from the audience here as well. So brokers have previously expressed frustration at slower insurer service, but maybe we could end on this note, as it's quite pertinent actually. What are some of the kind of key headlines to bolstering processes within an insurer to ensure that those service promises are kept? So maybe you're well placed to answer that, Jo.
Yeah, so I think having people who are empowered and knowledgeable to engage with the broker. And, we've talked a lot about e-trade, making sure that e-trade products and service capability, so it's consistent throughout, irrespective of client size. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, do you have a perspective there, John, that you'd like to throw in?
No, I think Jo hits it on the head, if I'm honest.
I think so. Okay.
Yeah.
I think with one of the kind of areas of feedback I found that were quite striking in the survey was on at some insurers, some underwriters were actually kind of working from home, which was kind of causing a lot of kind of difficulty in terms of decision making. Kind of being able to help the broker.
Try to avoid working from home.
Yeah,
you do find that even as brokers, sort of hunt groups that you would have in the old offices where somebody else would pick up the phone for somebody, don't tend to work in a working from home environment. It's just bouncing around from person to person to person, and you do find that. And I'm trying not to be critical of working from home because I think in many ways it gives a lot of people the opportunities to work in an industry where otherwise they might not, because of family commitments and things like that. And I think it's great in many ways, but there are times where they might all be on Teams calls internally, and it's more internally focused than externally focused. So I think it's a valid point.
yeah.
And then the City of London really is struggling with,
Yeah, absolutely. If you
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I know there's a sandwich shop in the city that's recently closed down. It's been there 40 years because their model can't sustain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're going into the city on a Monday is it's like a ghost town. Yeah. I mean, we can quickly just go to you about the working from home. Have you noticed kind of an improvement in service as insurers are starting to bring their staff back into the offices too?
I still very much get the buzz of working in an office. I really do.
Yeah.
Whilst working from home definitely has its strengths, and I can understand, why the flexibility is important in this modern day and age. I really believe that being in the office environment is how you learn, how you support one another, how you achieve things. That's my view. So the working from home part is a little bit contentious, I know, but on a personal level, I think being in the office, certainly 3 days a week, is really important to keep yourself progressing, and remember why you're there, what it is that you're doing, and actually, whilst we work in an insurance industry that is challenging, you can have some fun along the way.
Yeah.
I just think all of those parts make it then really successful. I think when we were talking earlier about the recruitment and, trying to create the right environment, to me, that's crucial to have that sort of opportunity to sort of have that, togetherness, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Striking a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything's about balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely.
What a nice note to end us on, John. And that's about all we have time for today in terms of the panel today. I'm sure we could do another hour on the working from home debate, so let's not go into that. But thank you very much to all of my esteemed panel members for joining me today. I think we've dived really well into exactly what it is that constitutes insurer service to brokers and how you can be successful there, and especially what brokers are looking for from their insurer partners in terms of that. So thank you very much to everybody that has joined us today, and
Thank you.
have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.